So both Dāvis Bertāns and the Spencer Dinwiddie experiment failed. Like I said, we got a second round pick and Kristaps Porziņģis. And we know that this team, they haven't mentioned it. Hey, Shane Larkin, we're targeting. So if we're targeting Shane Larkin, that's a backup point guard, but a high level backup point guard. And I think they're going to be calling Tyus Jones' agent to see if they can get him, because if he'd be willing to come for the full mid-level exception, that'd be awesome. I'm also a fan of them drafting Dyson Daniels. There's also the possibility of players on either the veteran minimum or, a partial of the mid-level exception along the lines of Eric Bledsoe or Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio, yes, I know he's coming off another serious knee injury. I love Ricky Rubio. If he came here, I would buy his jersey. And his three-point shooting, some years it's on, some years it's not. But for most of the season, it's inconsistent. But man, can he run an offense, and man, does he have high basketball IQ, and man, can he set up his teammates. And he's very good, and we saw what he did for the Cavs last year. Trailblazers are certainly expected to waive Bledsoe, and he submitted a decent half season for the Clippers, and he showed that he still has the defensive ability, which would certainly help the Wizards. Now, like I previously mentioned, I would love to bring back John Wall. If he comes back into the free agency after being bought out by the Houston Rockets, you could argue that a mid-level exception or a veteran minimum, if he's not having offers, is a worthy of the risk on a one-year deal. Beyond that, I think they're in a good position. Yes, they could trade Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's $14 million expiring contract for some flexibility, or for a Malcolm Brogdon or Mike Conley. But you have to also remember that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's like best friends with Bradley Beal. Now, the two guys I had mentioned, Brogdon and Conley, are two realistic trade partners, because Brogdon would likely be the preferred guy out of the two, and he has DC roots, and his contract's only 3 years at $22 million and change per season. So the only negative thing about him is that he can't stay healthy, and the best quality is availability, they say. But to match his salary, they could guarantee Caldwell-Pope's full $14 million next year, send him along with at least $3 million in filler, which they could get there by guaranteeing Ish Smith's deal. And boomia, we got ourselves Malcolm Brogdon, maybe throw in a pick. Now, what would Indiana want on top for Brogdon? I don't think the Wizards should be trading a future first. Like I said, they could probably throw a first in there with that Caldwell-Pope Ish Smith deal and get him, because I don't think Ish Smith and Caldwell-Pope will move the needle for the Pacers. But would you throw Rui Hachimura and a second round pick with Ish Smith? Or instead of Ish Smith, you keep Ish Smith and you waive him, so you don't have to pay that money. You attach Rui Hachimura, Caldwell-Pope, and a second round pick. That's not a bad deal. Then there's Devante Graham, who got traded for a first round pick last year, and he failed as a starter with the Pelicans. So I don't think the Wizards would want to give him the role. And Conley, that would be so much harder. I think you would have to package Kuzma and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope just to be able to get him onto the roster. Now, we can all agree that there's a lot of guys who could play the 3 or 4. There's Corey Kispert and Denny Avdia, who I think are the future. Then Rui Hachimura, who he can't play defense, but man, sometimes he looks great on offense. And then Kyle Kuzma, who I like. I think it really should be Kyle Kuzma at power forward, Hachimura backing him up at power forward, Porziņģis at center, Gafford backing up Porziņģis, Denny Avdia starting, Corey Kispert off the bench, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope backing up Bradley Beal. Then you have Ish Smith backing up, or, cut Ish Smith, bring in Shane Larkin, and find a point guard like Dyson Daniels, or trade that first round pick for a point guard. And look, Kuzma, Hachimura, Corey Kispert, and Denny Avdia. Yeah, they have a lot of players, and Washington's scraping the bottom of the barrel at point guard and backup center. Unless you argue that Daniel Gafford is the backup center for your new starting center, Kristaps Porziņģis. But it feels like they're trying to get Porziņģis to be their starting center. And they have the 54th pick. I'll make a video about that. But right now, in my most recent mock draft, I have them getting, I had them getting AJ Griffin for the shooting, but there's also guys, Dyson Daniels, Jeremy Sohan, I could see, or Johnny Davis, that they could go after. And they've worked out Johnny Davis. And again, they could trade down and try to get Ty Washington. So it's interesting to see what they could do. Again, I really like the idea of AJ Griffin's 3-point shooting. You could play small forward and move Beal. Maybe, as a... I don't even move KCP as the backup 2 guard. Beal be the starting guy. It's interesting. Now, look, Kyle Kuzma. He's under contract for this year for $13 million and then has a player option with a $13 million player option the following year, and he's probably going to go into unrestricted free agency. And it's a tricky situation because Kuzma had some stretches last year where he was literally the team's best player, averaging 20 plus points and 10 plus rebounds and shooting like almost 50% from the field and 40 plus from 3. And they could give an extension, and it would be a 20% raise on that, $13 million. And I think Kuzma probably feels as if he could do a lot better if he had a good year. And I would assume this is his best chance to get a payday. He's going to be 27 in unrestricted free agency. And if I was Washington, I'd be trying to lock in an extension at $14.6 million a year. But I don't see Kuzma signing off on it this early. So I think this one is destined to go into the summer of 2023. So with that being said, they really need to solve that point guard spot because it's a hole. Like and subscribe, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy.